No, okay. On my side it says live, so I'm just like sitting here alone staring at it.
Welcome back to your Bestie in Freight, where we keep it real, we keep it practical, and we talk about what's actually happening in this industry, not just what people say it is happening. And today, of course, April 1st, felt like the perfect day for this conversation because let's be honest, if everyone in Freight is telling the truth, why does nothing ever match? Broker says one thing, carriers say one thing, and somehow everyone thinks they are right. So today we are separating what is real and what is just a noise. And I brought someone who has been both sides of this industry. He has been a dispatcher, worked directly with carriers, and he has been against brokers, like really against them. And now he is co-founder a company focused on carrier reports, transparency, and protection. So, welcome in, Alex. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hey, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for picking this date. I think I picked this date to be honest. So I wore a festive shirt for a funny day.
Yes, exactly. So, let's start from the days that you were doing a dispatching and actively posting on LinkedIn. What happened during the day and how against you were in about brokers and how you made changes in your, opinion.
Sure. I mean, it's a blanket statement that I was against brokers. I think most carriers have had a bad experience with a broker at least once in their career. And by career, I mean at least once a day or week. I mean, there's just a lot of like bad brokers out there, just like there's a lot of bad carriers, which I learned later, but we'll get to that later in the story.
Mhm.
But basically, I was a dispatcher. I started working in house with carriers. I was managing 6, 7 trucks like throughout most of my career, drive-ins, and basically I would just go about my day booking freight for my trucks, getting my trucks loaded, dealing with that. And as soon as a bad situation would happen, which was pretty frequently, I would just go make a LinkedIn post, and I would just tell the world what's going on, tell the world what brokers are doing, and the brokers to avoid. And I mean, it always comes down to silly things, right? Like you book the load, they send the rate card, 5 minutes later they cancel it, 5 minutes later they cancel it, and you can go through five of those in an hour. But if the carrier cancels a load after 5 minutes, they start threatening you with freight guards and all these reports and all these negative things and financial loss. And I just thought it was kind of funny because it happened every day from the broker side of things. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have read that when you write things down, it is kind of therapy. But do you think that was your kind of type of therapy, sharing with the world what's going on with you as a dispatcher?
yeah, honestly, I won't lie. I think when I was in high school, I always liked English. I always liked writing, and I think LinkedIn sort of became an outlet for me to, like you said, a form of therapy to kind of, even if nobody else cared, I cared to write it down. It helped me. So
Yes. So tell me, what were brokers doing wrong from your perspective, other than, of course, canceling loads and stuff like?
yeah, I mean, I want to just out the gate say it's not every single brokerage. Like there was no animosity to the good ones. We had good relationships with tons of brokers. Carriers need brokers in most situations. Most carriers can utilize a good brokerage. However, that's where the good stuff stops. And let's go, to most interactions with, freight board brokers are going to be somebody that's either a little underexperienced or somebody that's very experienced to the point that they know how to abuse the carrier and they know how to get you to do what they need. So that's kind of the two types of situations you find yourself in as a carrier most often. And it's things like you need a little bit of extra money and they start making you feel bad about it, or they start threatening you with things, or they say if you don't do X then we're going to do Y. And there's a lot of this retaliation from load board brokers towards carriers, which I never thought was fair. I mean, I knew how to deal with it. It was fine. I'd be like I knew my rights as a carrier. I knew how to talk to the brokers and say, listen, like I don't have to go do a second pickup, or I don't have to go do a second delivery if I don't want to, and you're still going to pay me for the work that we've done, right? Like I'm not forced to bend to your will because you're the broker, right? Like this is what we agreed on. This is our contract. And I think a lot of carriers are scared to sort of, voice their rights towards brokers because they know that the broker has a lot of power to impact them negatively if they start getting, as some brokers would say, an attitude with the broker. And by attitude, they mean just knowing your rights as a carrier. So I think
Yeah,
it's a double-edged sword. Carriers either don't know their rights or they're scared to sort of use them because of the retaliation.
I agree with you. But what made you start think things differently? What changed?
I mean, honestly, I moved from dry vans, which is pretty saturated market, and I started doing some reefer stuff, which I didn't like, so I kind of quickly got out of the reefer stuff. But I started doing power only near the end of my carrier career, and
Mm.
that's where things started to change because it's like not a very big market. There's not a lot of small carriers doing strictly power only. I mean, we were a small company, couple trucks, it was just me and my like 4 or 5 drivers, and I think that's where things started to change because I wasn't in this saturated market. I wasn't dealing with stressed out brokers every day. And I wasn't dealing with, having 9 million other people bidding on my freight. It was like, I have a truck that nobody else really has in an area where a load needs to move. So the brokers are kind of a lot nicer to you because you have the advantage there, right? You're not competing against so many other trucks. So I think the biggest change in my career with my mentality was going into power only because it was just a lot easier attitude wise to deal with the brokers because they need your truck more than you need their load most of the time.
Yeah, no, I hear you because I have been in similar situation, dispatching driver and one reefer, and it was very definitely stressful and not fair. And as a freight broker doing power only, and I understand what you are saying completely. So let's talk about this disconnect that's happening in our industry, right? Carriers think brokers do wrong, and that actually some of the times it's not true. And what do brokers complain about that also carriers don't understand, and how this disconnect happens and how we can fix it?
Yeah, it's a really good conversation. And I think the biggest thing that helped me in my career was getting to come into the broker side of things. After 4 years on the carrier side, I kind of understood what carriers are going through. And, a lot of carriers think that the brokers are always lying to them. They think that, it's always the broker's fault. The broker's purposely doing things wrong to them. And to
Mhm.
a certain degree, when I was a carrier, I also kind of thought some situations like, what, I think the broker is just like straight up lying to me. But I got lucky enough to come into brokerage with a really good team at PGT Northside, and I got to start to see the industry from the other side of the fence. And I
Mhm.
got to see, when I'm booking freight and my customer misplaces, a 40,000 pound box the size of 3 houses, and I'm like, how is it possible that you guys didn't know this box wasn't here, right? And so I
Mhm.
started to see a lot of the things that brokers told me about the customer making mistakes and planning things or a dock worker mislabeling things, and I started to see the other side of it where I kind of didn't have the empathy when I was a carrier to believe those situations and understand them. And now that I'm on the broker's side of things, I see, that things do go wrong out of the broker's control because essentially they're also just in the middle of the customer and the carrier, right? So I
Mhm.
think the disconnect is that most brokers, and this is again a blanket statement, but most brokers have never been a carrier, most carriers have never been a broker. So it's tough for them to understand the struggles of both sides of it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Alex, I know you are working in different projects, but the main one I want to discuss today is Career Defender. And the reason is why when sometimes I go to Facebook, I see how carriers are like, feeling helpless and there is no one that can help them. And you are one of the first people building this company to help carriers to remove these reports. So can you please share with us about this company that you are co-founder with?
Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of the quick story of it. Is I used to be a carrier for a few years. I loved sort of being a carrier. I loved helping the drivers. I loved knowing our rights and stuff like that. I enjoyed, not that I enjoyed having problems as a carrier, but I did enjoy getting put into them and solving them. And it felt really good coming out on top versus the broker or the customer, knowing our rights, things like that. And then I moved into brokerage, and there was sort of like this hole missing, right? Because I missed being a carrier. I loved being a carrier. I loved helping the drivers, on the,
Mhm.
like in that level of being a carrier. And then it just started kind of snowballing because the market kind of got where it got for the past few years. A lot of tensions were high. A lot of reports were getting filed against my old friends, and it just kind of hit me like, what can I do to help the carriers? What can I do to help the truck drivers, like from these reporting situations and these disputes? And I got lucky to meet my partner, Dan Artave. He's a lawyer out of Michigan. And we started a company where we focused on pricing ourselves as, as cheap as humanly possible, because we felt that we wanted to help the truck drivers, not just rob them, right? Because a lot of our competitors, I've heard stories, the same service we offer for $1,000 or $2,000, there's other companies out there, for 5 grand or 10 grand, or I've heard 15,000.
Oh,
And
wow.
we kind of felt that the pricing system was, we wanted to help truck drivers, like, and
Yes.
that's kind of where it came from. I had this like missing piece of fighting with brokers and
Yes.
solving disputes, and this was sort of a way that I could give back to the carriers and help, because like you said, a lot of owner ops, a lot of smaller fleets, we're like 1 to 2 truck companies or 5 to 10 truck companies, they really do feel helpless and hopeless because the brokers have a lot of tools. My first day in logistics, my manager told me, brokers have all the tools to screw you over as a carrier. And that's kind of true. There's a power imbalance because they own the freight, and
Yeah.
it's sort of, they own you at that point when you take their load, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the mission. It was just to help out the truck drivers, help the people. Because I mean, I've had people call me crying. They say, "Hey, I got this report yesterday. I don't think it's fair." They send over the documents. I don't think it's fair either. It's not fair, and they're at the point where they're going to lose their business. They can't feed their family anymore over a couple, keystrokes from a brokerage. So
Yes.
it's a sad situation a lot of the time.
No, that's amazing what you are building, and I think from every carriers we really appreciate, and especially that you explained the pricing strategy that you guys have. That's amazing because I feel like these smaller carriers that are really helpless, they don't have like 15, 10 grand. They are just like, operating day to day after one breakdown to another breakdown. So what you are doing is truly amazing. So can you please share? Um, what are some success stories and your top interesting stories that you solve problem and you remove this freight guard report and everyone is happy other than brokers?
I mean, listen, it goes something like this, right? I mean, I've been on both sides of the fence. Now that I'm in brokerage, I see there's like a lot of shady carriers. And when I was a carrier, I never thought about it because it was just my work. I was the one doing the work, and it didn't
Yeah.
seem hard to send an update email. It didn't seem hard to tell somebody, "Hey, we're gonna be late," in advance. Like none of these things seemed difficult to me. And then I got into brokerage and I saw there's a lot of carriers that do not great business or just don't communicate whatsoever and turn off tracking. And so basically, like when I start these reports, when I get reports come across my desk, it's always the same situation, right? Like I'm gonna call the brokers, we're gonna go through all the files, I'm gonna determine if we can help or not, if the brokerage is wrong or not, basically. And then we'll reach out to them just very professionally, very nice. Like, listen, this is like I've been on the carrier side, I'm on the broker side. I've seen this situation. This is like a normal day in trucking, right? Like a
Mhm.
lot of the reports that come across our desk is like the carrier's 5 minutes late for a delivery and they give them a report. I'm like, listen, like we all know the industry we're in. We all know in trucking, it's not if there's going to be problems, it's when, right? So a
Yes,
lot of the
exactly.
things that happen are emotional reports where they're just standard, normal, everyday problems. And I'll
Right.
call the broker and listen, like we all know what business we're in. We've all seen this a million times. You're gonna keep seeing this. This is just gonna happen over and over and over again. It's not the carrier's fault, it's just trucking. And
Mhm.
then usually we're met with two responses. One would be them wanting to talk to us and wanting to fix things and maybe wanting to at least have a conversation. Or two, which is more frequent, they say, I don't care and hang up the phone. And unfortunately, we've been seeing a lot of that with the brokerages making these, emotional reports. We reach out to them and they tell us, I don't care. And they stop communicating with us, which I think is absolutely ridiculous because you're the one threatening the livelihood of an entire family or multiple families, and you don't care, right? Like that's the mentality of a lot of the big brokerages, a lot of the even just independent agents. I mean, we have brokerages come across our desk, the same ones at once every 2 weeks, or sometimes it's a one-man operation, but a lot of the time the people that post these reports say, I do not care, and hang up the phone. And I
Oh,
don't think that's fair at all, right?
yeah. Now, so what you guys do after they say I don't care? And I agree with, with the fact that it is most of the time it's emotional because I'm using Carrier 411 and I have seen so many reports that like it's just funny for me, like how you can write this type of
Yeah,
report.
how can you even take the time out of your day to type this type of
Yes,
reports?
I guess it is also some type of therapy for freight brokers, to be honest with you. But
Yeah, but unfortunately, the consequences of that therapy are really high. And I think a lot of the time, brokers don't even understand. Maybe they've never been trained. Maybe they've never felt it. I mean, as a carrier, I've worked under, a fresh freight guard, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all. Like, people don't understand the minute you get a freight guard, even if it's like something so stupid like an accounting error, which is one I actually had and had to work under. I call
yes,
a load, they say, "Oh, you got a freight guard 2 days ago," and just hang up the phone. 80% of the freight on the load boards, and it's like something about accounting. It's like they don't read these reports even. So
they
I
don't.
think I think brokerages need to do some training where, or I mean, this is the ideal solution, is that you have like one or two managers in any brokerage that are the only two people or one person that can post these reports. And like
Yes,
whoever wants to make a report, it needs to go through that management. They need to sit down and read it as a third party. That's
yes.
the ideal solution, right? Because then you're going to remove a lot of the emotion and inexperience from these type of reports.
No, I absolutely agree. That's what we do in Freight Tech. I personally cannot go and write a report. I have to, tell the head office, and then we don't put report just like because we are mad.
Yeah, see, but that's like the correct way that I think it should be handled, or at the very least, at
Mhm.
least bring in a carrier that's like been part of a freight guard report and let them explain to the brokerage one day, like in a little meeting, like, hey, that one report ruined my life or almost ruined my life or caused me this amount of like problems. Like, I
Yeah,
think brokers need to at least have like a standardized training to know what they're doing to people when they post these things.
I agree with you. But I think that Carrier 411 has this 24-hour reply time, right? Or
Yeah, I mean they give carriers 24. I think it's 48 hours to be
yeah,
honest, to be able to reply to the report. But I've had a lot of cases for whatever reason they come across the desk where nobody even was notified and the reports went live. And even if the carrier replies again, like nobody's going to read the report. Not nobody. Most people are not going to read the report. So it doesn't matter what the broker said or what the carrier said. Most brokerages operate like this: type in the MC number, they see report 2 days ago, hang up the phone. Like that's just how most of it goes, right?
well, I guess I always read. Actually, I want to read and see. Like there was no single time that I didn't read the report because I know that 95% of the time it's just BS. If it is not double brokering and freight cert, I honestly don't care what they wrote, why they were mad at this, carrier. So our law taking hostage. This is the
Yeah, but
street.
that's always their reply when I'm on like social media or when I'm talking to people. They're always like, "Yeah, but I read them." I'm like, "Cool, you're like one person out of 9 million
No,
people in this
I agree
industry."
that a lot of people like that's why these reports existing. It means that no one, really reads and no one even cares. That's why these carriers cannot book any more freight. But so I want to understand when the broker says I don't care and hang up. What are the steps you take
Yeah,
to?
so I mean, like you said, when the broker says that they don't care, I obviously do care. I mean, that's why we started Carrier Defender, just because we do care. And I've said that to a lot of potential clients that call us for help. And I always tell them, I didn't start this company to become a millionaire. I mean, obviously I can't work for free. It's a lot of time invested and a lot of things going on. But at
Mhm.
the same time, like I do care on a personal level about the imbalance of power between brokers and carriers in this industry. And that's where it comes to, if they tell me they don't care, unfortunately I do care. And then the next steps are going to start happening. Emails will go across, nobody's going to reply to my emails. Okay, well, that's why we've built the social media brand that we've built. Because unfortunately, if you want to go into the public space and start leaving reports that have huge financial consequences for the people you're doing it to, unfortunately, we've also built, our social media to the point where if I feel that the case is completely, unfair and unjust, then we're going to also go to social media. We're also going to start posting your story and what you've done to people, because if you have the ability to do it to them, why can't they do it back to you, right? Because carriers unfortunately can only leave a Google review. Nobody cares about that. Nobody's going to read a brokerage 9 million Google reviews. Like nobody cares about those things. It's not going to affect the company enough for anybody to care. But
Yes.
unfortunately for them, we've built, a sizable following where we've had cases come on to LinkedIn that are like 50, 60, 70, 80,000 views in a couple hours because that's what they deserve. If they don't want to have the conversation with us, if they don't want to listen, if they don't care, we're going to have to make them care somehow, some way, right?
Yeah. I hear you, and I absolutely agree with you. What you are doing again, I feel like is so important, and I want you guys grow and help more carriers to get rid of these unfair reports and help them, move their operation and still doing business. But because it's today, April 1st, Alex, I'm gonna tell you few statements, and you're gonna tell me it is true or BS. Are you ready?
Sure, let's go.
All brokers are ripping off carriers.
I mean, that's not true. It's not all. Some, most, maybe, but not all.
Carriers always tell the truth.
That's also not true. That's BS.
Double brokering is under control.
I don't know. It depends who you ask. I honestly, I don't know what to say to that one.
So false or not false?
I mean, I guess false. It's not. Nothing's under control. Like in the industry at the moment, nothing's under control.
I agree. Carriers' reports are 100% accurate.
No, that's not true.
You can trust a rate can more than a text message.
Yeah, that's true.
Perfect. So,
That's actually pretty funny.
so let me ask you a few other questions. You ever had a carrier say empty in 30 minutes and it turns out into 5 hours as a freight broker?
I've been the carrier that said that because the driver told me that, and then we find like one pallet in the back. So yeah, like that's like I've unfortunately had to do that to people too. So
Craziest excuse you have ever heard in logistics?
I can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean, we all know that we've had, I mean, we found like emails where a carrier will tell us that a certain driver's like family member has passed away, and then months will
Yes,
go by and we'll find the same email from the same carrier on the same driver saying the same person's passed away again. So, I
yes,
mean, that's like off the top of my head. Like we've had multiple of the same people pass away from from carriers.
yeah, that's kind of traditional, right?
Yeah, I mean, somebody's grandma's always passing away, unfortunately.
So, one thing carriers do that drives brokers crazy.
Lack of communication for me specifically. I mean, no emails, no text, no phone calls, just lack of communication drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah. So, what is the biggest lie in logistics right now, in your opinion?
Wow, these are good questions. The biggest lie in logistics. Hmm, that's that's actually a really crazy question. I'm gonna sit down after. I'm gonna like write all these down. I mean, the biggest lie in all of logistics is that anybody outsourcing is like immediately a scammer. I think, like from my personal point of view, I think that's like the biggest, most like ridiculous lie that's just constantly being said over and over and over again.
I agree. What is something people are ignoring that's actually dangerous in logistics?
I think, I mean, from the past 3, 4 years of the market conditions, I think safety, like of the equipment of the trucks, right? Like there wasn't enough money like coming across, and a lot of equipment was just running completely dangerously. Like I think that the lack of maintenance for the past 3 years or so in this industry is probably the most dangerous thing that was relative to the rates that were being paid.
Yeah, I hear you. So, lately I talk a lot about AI. Do you think tools like carrier reports can be automated, or how do you see the future?
I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask about AI. I mean, I'm not like I'm pretty young and I should probably be getting with the times a bit more, but I just like refuse to use most of it or like any of it at this point. But that's gonna come back to bite me. I can already tell in like 5 years. So I should probably get with the times. But as far as carrier reports being automated, that specific sentence, I think carrier reports need to be humanly not automated. Every report needs to be reviewed, which is not happening. And I guess people will never do it, but I think every report on a carrier needs to be seen by a human, read by a human with experience in the industry, and reviewed before it goes public. That's my like. I think AI has no place in that process. I mean, there's no process right now. Nobody's reviewing the reports. They just go live. Like that's it. So,
Yeah, I agree with you. Do you think AI will reduce fraud or make it worse?
I mean, that's a really good question too. I had a really interesting. I used to think it was going to help a lot. Like that was my overall general view that AI will help fraud, stop fraud. But a really close friend of mine with like 30 years experience in the industry told me, well, if we're going to use, like, the good guys are going to use AI to stop the fraud, what do you think the bad guys are going to do? And what do you think they're going to do when you can't hear, you don't know their accent anymore? And they're going to learn how to use it better than us probably. And it's probably going to make fraud worse in the long run. And I never thought of it that way. And that's just been in my mind for the past like year, 6 months.
Yeah, I actually, that's what exactly I saw, that it's gonna make it worse.
It is, I think, because right now it's kind of easy. There's like a lot of stereotypical red flags that we can all catch with like bad spelling and accents and these kind of things. But when we get to the point where everybody sounds the same, then what are we gonna do, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, quick shout out to my sponsor, Digital Permit Book. It helps carriers stay organized, verify, and keep everything compliant in one place, which is becoming most important than ever with everything we are talking about today. So, Alex, do you have any last things that you would love to share in April 1st?
I mean,
For
I'll just touch on your digital permit book sponsor. Shout out to them and that idea because I had a meeting last week. I've
Mhm,
been a carrier for a long time, never cared about the back office stuff. I absolutely hate paperwork. And I didn't
exactly.
know that this was kind of like a product. And it's really cool, right? Because if you have like 700 trucks and you get like 700 new registrations and you can just upload them into an app, like that's really good. Like,
That's really cool and very helpful. And you are the second guest that actually, using it or heard about them. I had a truck driver that when I mentioned my sponsor, she didn't know that Digital Permit Book is my sponsor. And she was like, oh, wow, I am using this technology and I'm so happy as a driver. And I got so excited because
yeah, I think it's really cool technology that I just never
yeah,
knew existed up until like 10 days ago.
I love supporting technologies and companies that are for carriers, of course, for brokers too. But I think I have the same trauma that you have because I started as a carrier, so
Yeah.
it's in us to help the carriers.
I mean, I think like to touch on the end of the show here, and it's like because it's April Fools. I mean, I'm just gonna say like if you make a bad report, like we will find you. Like we will find you. Like you make a bad report, like we will find you. That's April Fool's joke. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, you're gonna have to figure it out on your own. But
Well, thank you for sharing that, Alex. I think that was not a lie, that was true. Alex and his team co-founder will find you, so make sure you think before you.
allegedly, April Fools, allegedly.
Yes. Think before you write this report, before you destroying this company who is trying to do a good job and serve his community and family. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining. I think this was an amazing conversation. I
Hey,
got a
thank you
lot
for
about.
having me on. Thank you for wanting to talk about these things because these are conversations not a lot of people want to have or, even do have or think about. So I really appreciate your time.
Exactly. Thank you. And if you guys got value from this episode, which I'm sure you did, please share, like, and wait until the next one. And if you guys want to stay connected with Alex, he has LinkedIn, email, right? What is your email, Alex, for Career
Uh,
Defender?
it's Alex, Aleks, at carrierdefender.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex, for
Thank
joining.
you.
I will